Hey, it's Megan. Welcome back to Megan's Read Library. Today, I will be doing my April wrap up. I only read 4 books, which is better than I thought I would get to, considering I am spending a lot more time studying for my promotion. But without further ado, I guess let's just get into it. So, the first book I read and completed in April was The Winter King by C.L. Wilson. I did a brief review, not a review, a synopsis on it for my very first read video where I review a book, so I read it, and then I create something to eat and drink to pair with it. But I didn't want to get super spoilery, especially since I had already read it and I was about halfway through on my reread of it. But I love this book again. Um, I think I liked it even more the second time around because I had a better understanding of how the world worked the second time, so then I could focus more on the development of the relationship between the characters instead of figuring out like the magic differences. Um, so this follows Callison, or not Callison, Camson, and Winter with a Y. Um, he is the Winter King from the Northern Kingdom, and she is a Summerly princess. But she's kind of nobody knows her because her she's blamed for the death of her mother, the queen, and her father is an evil, abusive asshole, and he refuses to acknowledge her basically unless she gets in trouble. That's the only time that he'll acknowledge her. Uh, so you find out in like the very first like prologue that her oldest brother, the prince, goes to a a treaty summit basically with the Northern Kingdom, and he basically steals Winter's fiance and steals this magical artifact so that he can potentially be the resurrected like ancient king, um, and rule all the kingdoms that are within reach. So that causes them to have like a 3-year war where the prince is never found. He escapes, um, and Winter basically consumes the Ice Heart and becomes the most powerful Winter Mage ever and wages war and destroys Summerlee. So when he wins, he decides that he will take a Summerlee princess as a bride every year until he gets an heir. So if the very first one gives him an heir within the year, then he will stay married to her, whatnot. But there are four, or no, there's three known Summerlee princesses. One that represents spring, summer, and autumn. And then Camson, which is the unspoken one, and she is more of a weather mage where she controls like lightning and wind and so on and so forth. So she gets forced into marrying him because her father despises her and loves her other sisters so deeply that he says, I will not force your other sisters to marry him. So he basically does some fucked up shit that just makes your heart hurt and forces her to marry him. And yeah, that starts their journey together. So it's very much it's like, I wouldn't say it's hate to love. I would definitely say it's like severe dislike to love. Um, Arranged marriage tropes. So it I don't know how to explain it without, it's pretty tropey. It's a romance book. There's, the intense sexual attraction, even though you don't want to be attracted to each other. Like, you have that, like, extreme dislike on personality level, but, like, physically, you're like, okay, he cute, she's cute. Um, so there is that tropey element to it. But what I love about the world is that it has that medieval fantasy element to it, or feeling, but it doesn't feel like high fantasy. It's not so complicated that you like can't understand it. It's a very easy world to understand, and everything's like very, very basic, but it's still well done. It's not like cheap, if that makes sense. Um, so I reread this so that I could read the second one, The Sea King, which I have sitting on my TBR table, I guess. I hope to get to that soon. I thought I was going to get to it in April, but that didn't happen because I got hemmed up with rereading 4 books, and I reread them via audiobook, and that would be the Circle of Magic series by Tamora Pierce, because when I read Tempest and Slaughter, it just put me back into wanting to read her books. And ironically enough, it made me want to read the Circle series, which it's still like an amazing series, but the Turtle universe was 100% like my favorite series. But now rereading these as an adult and remembering all those different things, I appreciate them way more now. And it definitely helped that I reread these as audiobooks and I listened to the full cast audio edition. Oh my goodness, it was amazing because there's basically like 8 main characters and there's an actor for each character and they voice it. It's just like a cast, The book will be primarily from one person's perspective, but every person who talks is voiced by their actor. So it's very distinct. There is no confusion of who's who. And then also, because it's written in third person, the parts that are like clearly the narrator parts are narrated by the author, Tamora Pierce. And her voice is, it's like, it reminds me of an elementary school teacher I had who would read us books, and it's so soothing, and she was like the only teacher that I could listen to read and like not fall asleep. So like she brought me back to like that 3rd grade level. I really appreciated it. So the first book is Sandras Book, and it's follows Sandraline Fator Fator. This is when we meet all of the young mages. In the first like 3 or 4 chapters, we see how they meet the most powerful mage who finds them and says like, I'm gonna bring you back to Winding Circle, which is a mage school, like mage university almost. And he's going to teach them their specific magics, because their magics are not the traditional like you just have raw power and then you can implement it in any way that like works the best for your choices, like with random spells and amulet objects and stuff like that. Their magic is rooted in physical things. So hers is rooted in thread magic. Tris, Nyx, can you stop being rude? Tristana is a weather mage, so she literally sparks lightning in her hair when she starts to get agitated and things like that. So she has a lot of control that she has to learn. So anytime that she's afraid or experiences a lot of anger, fear, weather immediately reacts to that. And then we have Daja. Oh, I can't remember what her last name is. Yeah, I don't remember. But she is a smith mage because her magic is influenced not directly by fire, it's metal. So while metal and fire go together, and she's not 100% like, she's just not 100% immune to fire, but Triss is, because it's an earth element and she's more like an earth mage. So she works magic with metals, all metals, it doesn't matter what it is. And then you have the one boy of the group, and his name is Briar, and he was a Briar Moss. He was a street rat who gets like rescued from his third strike, and he becomes he has plant magic. So like a lot of these sound like very like earth based, and they all are technically, but his is specifically rooted in plants. And then we have specifically rooted in thread magic and weather and metal working. So they meet, they get rescued from their various situations. They are all orphaned by either her parents die in a plague. Her family literally just gets rid of her because they think that she's cursed and evil. Her family are known as traders in this book, and they travel the seas and the roads, and her family were sea traders, blue traders is what they called them, and they died in a ship accident, and she was the only survivor. And because of the mythos of their people, if you are the only survivor of an event, you are considered Trangshi, which is bad luck, and you are stricken and excommunicated from society, their society. And then Briar, being a street rat, his mother died at a very young age, and he lived in the poor slums of the town, so then he grew up with those people. So they're all found by a specific mage and brought to Winding Circle, and then they all end up having a specific mentor. But all the mentors work together to help them, since they all have very unique magic and they're all extremely powerful in their own right. And they end up living in the same house, and they bond, basically. By the end of book 1, Sandras Book, there is an event that happens, and they have to bind their magic using her thread magic to survive. And in doing so, it joins all of their magics together. And you get a lot of problems from that. So all of a sudden, Sandry will be touching a piece of thread, and then it catches on fire from Triss. Daja was doing metalwork, and she ends up creating a living piece of metal art because of a combination of Triss and Sandry and Briar's magic. And then they can all, at some point, Triss is spelled so that she can see Nyx. Goodness. So that she can see magic, and then all of them end up being able to see magic. So there's a lot of crossover on that. So I finished the first 3 books. So I read 4 books total. I'm still currently listening to the last book. But if you've never read these books and you want to, I would and you're really into audiobooks, definitely listen to the full cast audio. It's available on Audible. I'm sure you can pick it up from like your library and stuff like that, because this was amazing. All the individual voice actors, they also have like transition music, and sometimes there's background. it doesn't have like battle sounds necessarily. Like it doesn't like fully auto um give audible to like all sounds, but like for certain things it does. Like you can almost hear like wind picking up when something's going on with Triss. Um then there's like musical interludes between chapters and so on and so forth. I loved it. I'm definitely going to be re-listening to these again in the future. So that was a much longer wrap up than I thought. Um, I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope to get you in the next day or two some more videos and like a life update, because if y'all thought I didn't read a lot this month, just wait until the coming months, because shit's getting crazy with my life. But I will talk to you soon. Bye.